Disability advocates have been involved in civic engagement for years, but has it really been effective?
In this podcast series, we will talk about disability and public engagement, examine the municipal disability advisory committees as a case study for this engagement, and discuss what we can do to move the needle forward to create positive change.
Welcome to Our Voices.
Disability through a lens of public engagement.
I'm Anu Pala.
And I'm Alfiya Barilova.
Welcome back to Our Voices. I'm Anu Pala.
And this is Alfiya Barilova.
In this episode, we welcome Karen Lai, an experienced consultant, trained facilitator, and social planner for the City of Vancouver. Karen's work is informed through her lived experience of disability and years of advocacy. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks so much
to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to be with us today.
No problem.
So can you share your experiences of working on the municipal accessibility issues as part of the council and as part of the Accessibility Advisory Committee?
Yeah, the City of Vancouver has been doing work in accessibility. We have a long-standing committee called the Persons with Disabilities Advisory Committee, which is one of the council committees, and they look at accessibility issues that are around the city and its communities. And in 2018, the council directed staff to develop the accessibility strategy with the development of an accessibility task force. And then in 2021, that's when the Accessible BC Act came into play. So as we were developing our own strategy within the city, because of the new legislation, it gave us more impetus to further develop this strategy with its multi-year action plan. So, luckily, the City of Vancouver has already been on its way addressing some of the issues, and then the act just gave it more of a legal stance, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting that the city of Vancouver started working on this way before the legislation. Have you had to modify things, look at different things because of the legislation, or does the strategy has more impetus now?
Yeah, great question. And I think it kind of shifted, although we were still in the planning phases of our own accessibility strategy. We weren't quite sure about the feedback mechanism and how we work with community in terms of implementation of it. So with the legislation, it put more of a foundation into our next step of creating a public feedback mechanism and an accessibility committee. We were already going down the route of developing a multi-year action plan and working alongside with the community, but it gave us more of a foundation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What is something that you're excited about when thinking about the strategy? I know it's still in the works, but what, I guess, makes you feel excited about it?
Well, our council passed the accessibility strategy phase 1 last summer, July 2022, and based on community engagement that we did one of the top things is about attitudes, how we shift attitudes and transform a culture shift. So that's something exciting about is that, and speaking of a person with from a lived experience of disability, shifting attitudes is number one foundation, and then everything will follow.
It's a challenging task, though.
Absolutely. Because attitudes, way of being is so innate and ingrained in us. And how do we shift our own biases and assumptions and stereotypes?
Yes.
I was listening to a podcast recently around accessibility and inclusion, and they were talking about attitudes. And it feels like slowly we are moving the needle forward. I'm just curious to know, Karen, like your personal experience, do you feel that attitudes are shifting, or do you feel like we still have a long way to go?
Well, I guess specifically in the municipal context too, I'm curious to know.
Yeah, personally, I think it is the dial has shifted, but you're right, Anu, that we've got a long way to go. I think when people see accessibility, they think of physical barriers. But accessibility, as we know, is much more than physical barriers. And like accessibility strategy touches on, it's not just physical, it's social, um, it's how we feel valued and belong. So it's how we think of other people, and I can tell you from personal experience that as soon as people know that I work with their city, people are more willing to talk to me because people think that with a speech impediment, and now that I use a walker, people don't think I work.
Right.
Oh, so, and then as soon as they say, oh, I have a job at the city, they begin to think differently. So it's always the assumptions coming forth. And how do we balance those assumptions?
Yes, I can certainly relate to that now as a faculty member at Royal Roads University. I certainly get very similar similar reactions.
I know for me as well, when I travel for work sometimes. If I'm in the airport and someone happens to be assisting me to the plane and casual conversation, they'll be like, oh, are you going to visit friends or family? It's like, no, I'm actually going for business. And it makes them take a step back. Like that automatic reaction is, oh, this person probably doesn't work. So
Absolutely. And I mean, as much as I don't like being identified by what I do professionally, I find it useful to let people know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, even though it's not professional aspect of our identities is not everything that we are, unfortunately, the reality is that, yeah, we do need to bring that up and hopefully change one or two, whoever we're encountering, these people's reactions and attitudes.
Yeah, I think it's a way of just like raising awareness, if anything. And I think for us as people with lived experience of disability, it's I think innate for us to be out there as self-advocates and advocates for others as well, to be raising awareness about the fact that disability is a part of us, but it's not our entire identity.
Totally. I agree. Yeah.
So Karen, I was lucky. I was very fortunate enough to be part of the engagement that you were doing as part of developing
Mhm.
the strategy. And we know that engagement of people with disabilities is key to developing a plan or a policy that is meaningful, that is gonna hopefully make a difference and resonate with people with disabilities. So, what are some of the things you learned from this experience of organizing this engagement sessions? Why do you think they're important? Kind of what's your reflections on that?
I think when developing an accessibility strategy, people with disabilities need to be front and center of their work.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot develop a strategy like a comprehensive strategy like this without hearing the voices of people with lived disabilities. So all our engagements, accessibility was front and center. So we add ASL, we add closed captioning, we prepared all written material in large print,
Mm-hmm.
in plain language. We encourage people to wear no perfume, to keep a scent-free location, and being in an accessible venue. So accessibility needs to be front and center. And we've had a lot of feedback, like our engagements weren't perfect by no means, because accessibility needs are so different from one person to another person. So, for instance, when we had a broader engagement, we learned that maybe offering a couple iPads for people to walk around so people can carry iPads with closed captioning with them. We're always learning. Accessibility is a learning journey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so different from one person to one person. So as long as the facilitator has an open mind, curious, and keeping wonder about different needs of people, that is something I picked up when planning these engagement sessions.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of accessibility being a journey and a learning experience. Your open mindedness and your intentionality behind the engagement and how they were organized is a key to yeah to their success. And I understand, yeah, there's still room for improvement, but I think that's just how accessibility is. You know, we can only grow and improve. I think that just really reflects the idea that it's very complex.
Yeah, and it's ever evolving as well. I think with technology and now with AI becoming more prevalent. I love what you said, Karen, about using iPads so that people had access to closed captioning. That's so creative. And that's what I love about the whole conversation about accessibility as well, is about thinking outside the box. Love
Yeah.
that.
And I think accessibility is so different, being that we, as people with disabilities, are not only made of one identity. So between people, we have so many different identities. That's what I love about the accessibility strategy, and not only touches on disability, but how all of our own identities, whether you're a person of color or a different income level, it affects how accessible the world is to you. So we've got to think of all these different things, and it's never ending.
Yes, definitely. Intersectionality is a key. Absolutely. So, Karen, thinking about the role of the municipal accessibility advisory committees, well, in this case, Persons with Disability Advisory Committee, what role does committees like that play in shaping city policies around accessibility?
It's definitely important in shaping our policies, and our guidance is hearing from the voices of community. They live it every day. So we've got to listen to the communities and work with them and align our policies to the community. They're the on the ground work. And so listening and engaging with them and following their lead.
What do you think that looks like in practice? When I talk to some of the committee members from different municipalities, they certainly identified some challenges in working with the city staff and conveying some of their ideas. What do you think are some of the ways that can be improved? Sort of the understanding of the staff increased on certain issues, communication related issues.
Very good question, because working from the inside of municipalities, we live in a very bureaucratic system. I'm not going to lie. There's hoops to jump through, there's ways in which we process things. So just because community has said something internally, we may have to some hoops, some do whatever, but I think the city of Vancouver is trying hard to hire people with lived experience, so we can properly advocate for the community we serve.
Mm.
And actually push their agenda forward from an internal way forward. I think that's what's important. I mean, there's a fine balance, because I relate to the disability community, but I also have to know how to navigate the system,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you're kind of like this insider outsider a little bit, right? So you bring in your own lived experience and that perspectives, but also navigating the system that's not necessarily historically built for people with disabilities. It was not thought of as an inclusive system.
Totally, totally. We live in a very colonial, white, able-bodied system that is not built. But how do you push from internally? So I'm trying, not
Yeah.
good, not good enough, but I'm trying.
No, but I think you speak to the importance of thinking about engagement, thinking about making systemic changes, and employing people with disabilities is one of the components of that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So it has to be definitely a multi-pronged approach to this.
totally.
City of Vancouver has been, or has been at least trying to be proactive in this whole realm of hiring people with disabilities. Karen, you and I worked in a program in a different lifetime together, and I recall having some interactions with City of Vancouver. So sometimes, you see certain champions in these larger organizations who are really proactive and they really want to see the needle pushed forward. But as you mentioned, there is a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. So that's why sometimes it feels like it's taking forever to actually see the systemic changes. But yes, we still have a ways to go.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Slowly but surely.
Yes.
Definitely.
And something you brought up, Karen, too, the idea of intersectionality, right? So the idea that we're not just one identity, we're composed of so many different things. How does that translate in how the committees are set up, for example? I think the Persons with Disability Advisory Committee, how do we improve the connections with other committees that work on different issues that might not just relate to, say, disability, but also, being a parent, being a woman, being part of the 2S LGBTQ community? Like, what are some of the ways you think we can integrate the ideas around intersectionality in the way we set up some structures like this? I know it's a complicated question, but maybe, I don't know, you have thoughts about that.
Yeah, thank you for this because we've actually been working with civic, the Department of Civic Agency, where it looks at how we nominate and how we select advisory committees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our advisory committees are council directed and they have their own process. And we've looked internally about how the process is. It's quite high barrier, and they know that. And we are trying to work together to think of other ways that they can apply to make it low barrier and reflective of diversity of disability. So we've recently put together a newly formed accessibility committee that meets the requirements of Accessible BC Act.
Mm-hmm.
We've structured the committee application to be low barrier, and it was done through myself and the equity office to make it low barrier, not invasive, and in the end, I think we've got a pretty good intersection of disability in terms of culture, in terms of the level of disability, so that it reflects the diversity and the intersection
Mm-hmm.
of disability. Mind you, it's not perfect, and we've got a 16-member accessibility committee,
Oh, wow.
and I mean, it's not reflective of everyone, but it's something. So we're trying to look internally at our processes. It's not perfect, but we are working towards it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think recruitment and how we evaluate people's applications, how we make these opportunities available to people is definitely an important piece of that. Absolutely. And that's something that was brought up by some of the people I interviewed. It's just the application process. It's not accessible. The information that's being requested might not be relevant. It's reflective of how we as a society value what's considered knowledge and expertise, right? We
Yeah.
mostly look at education level and professional experience. And I think it's certainly time now to rethink how we define what's considered expertise. And, lived experience is that expertise. It's just, we need to support people in helping them to convey that. And of course, make sure that municipalities also recognize that as expertise when they work with people with disabilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say not only recognize, but compensate
Right.
people for their expertise as well.
Yeah, compensation is a huge part, and I'm proud to work in a municipality that we compensate all the accessibility committee members.
That's
Oh, that's
wonderful.
great. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you know if was that difficult to get to this point of compensating? Because I know it's still not the case for many municipalities.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I heard that most municipalities are not paying
Yep.
their members. And it was a bit of an issue because we do have a standardized payment for our committee, and we were afraid that if this committee member hears what other people are getting, there'll be a bit of infighting.
Mhm.
But because the accessibility committee is provincially mandated, that's how we change. Because it's provincially mandated, we need to abide by procedure bylaws. We have opted to pay $125 per meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but people, but each member is able to request the amount that they want up to 125. This is because some people are on income assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to keep it open. Again, it's about barrier, addressing the barrier. We do not want to stop the other income supplements to
Mhm.
be on the committee.
Right. Well, and that already shows that you're cognizant of that, and you're giving people agency to actually request the amount that they need. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
It's wonderful.
Something that other municipalities, I think, can copy and at least learn
Learn
from that
from.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Karen, we talked about the Accessible BC Act a bit in today's episode. And while it's still in its early implementation, I'm curious to know what your hopes are for this legislation.
I mean, we already see it around municipalities and organizations. Accessibility is the field to be in right now
Yeah.
because it's being talked about, at least it's in the dialogue. This is way different than 10 years ago. But what I hope that it will go even further. Not only organization, municipality to doing accessibility work because of legislation, but we do it because we need to.
Mm-hmm.
Because people with disabilities are a part of our community. And if we don't create structures, policies, bylaws for people with that include people with disabilities, we're missing a huge part of the community. And I hope that people do this work not because of legalities, but because they want to. It's actually part of the job. They want to.
Yes, looking beyond compliance. Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As you can tell, accessibility is my love and my
No.
joy.
Yes.
My
I
love
yeah.
and my joy. But it's hugely complex work.
Yeah.
It's hugely complex.
Mhm.
And but we need to shift the diet to have more people with disabilities in leadership roles.
Here, here.
And in roles that they actually make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, you look at all the disabled organizations, they are led by usually white able-bodied men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why? Why?
I ask that question often myself.
Yeah, why?
I know.
So we need to shift the dial. And if we want to make change in this area, we've got to start from our own disability community
Mm-hmm.
and ask them why that they don't hire people with disabilities in leadership roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we see that often people with disabilities are hired at the entry level. Maybe they move up a little bit, but you're absolutely right. And this is something that I struggle with a lot, seeing people remain in these. I mean, every position is relative and important, but there are a lot of people who are very ambitious and they do want to move into more higher level positions, especially there are many of us, like the three of us at this table, who are educated and have a lot to offer and have the skill set. And so why are they not being offered or even mentored or, in moved into those other positions? Because it's so important. Like job satisfaction is so important and career development. So I absolutely echo what you're saying about this.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Karen. We're just, incredibly lucky to have you in this role, doing this great work. Just very grateful for you and for your insights today. That's been really great. Thank you.
Yeah, keep shining your light. We need you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Our Voices with Anu Pala and Dr. Alfiya Badalova.
This study was generously funded by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. We would like to thank our podcast guests, Amy Amanti, Tony Valente, and Karen Lai, and all the municipalities who participated in my research project.
Thank you for listening.